Hello and welcome to Ground Control. I have been waiting on this little car for over a month. I think it's been out of stock. So I ordered it from Banggood and I ordered it from the US warehouse and received it in 4 days from the US warehouse. So that's not too bad. It was just bad waiting so long for them to get it back in stock again. But this is a little 1/28th scale drift car, and it comes with this little transmitter. It's got to be fast because it's got flames on it, you know. So it takes 4 AA batteries. I've just got rechargeables in there, and the rechargeables seem to work just fine on it. It has trim buttons for your steering, for left and right, and then it also has throttle trim. Now I haven't tried using the throttle trim yet, but one thing I noticed, it's the same thing that you have with most of these little ready-to-run units with the transmitters, is that you have decent granularity on the steering, but you really don't have good enough granularity on the throttle. Now it works just fine, and it's a blast to drive. I've already put one battery pack through it, and there is a link in the show notes. I measured the battery compartment on this little car and measured the battery. It uses a 2-cell. This is a 400 milliamp, and I believe that it is a 20C battery. But I couldn't find any batteries, any spare batteries that were specifically for this car that I could find on Banggood's site. And it must not pull very many amps, because it actually uses, instead of the discharge plug to power the car, it actually uses the balance port. So at least you wouldn't be limited to a 2-cell battery with a JST connector, because the only thing you use the JST connector for on this car is recharging the battery. So it has these slick little hard plastic wheels. It's a 4-wheel drive car, and it drifts very nicely. I mean, I've had a blast with it. It has 4-wheel independent suspension. These little nubs up here that the car sets on have a little flexibility to them. It has a bumper on the back of it, or excuse me, on the front of it. So that should save some components. You know, these little, when they have these little hard plastic risers on here, that's one of the first things I always break off on these cars. It has an aluminum bottom. At least I believe this is brushed aluminum. And I can tell you that the reason that they put brushed aluminum on the bottom of this, I mean, it adds a lot of rigidity to the frame. But I retrieved this car yesterday after running it through one battery pack, and I made a mistake of reaching underneath it to pick it up. And this brushed motor gets hot. It gets hot enough that if you leave your fingertips there, it'll burn your fingertips. So when you go retrieve your car, pick it up by the body. Don't cup it underneath and pick it up, because you will get burned by that motor. So I would assume that this frame is also part of their heat dissipation for this car, because that motor runs very hot. Also, it says that you get about 30 minutes of runtime. I would say that's closer to 20 minutes of runtime, which isn't bad for a car this size and that size battery. But you're going to want to buy spare batteries for this thing, because after I ran through one battery pack, I was hoping I had 2 more to put in it. So I have a link in the show notes that's a link to a 2-cell battery. I think it's a JJRC, and I think it's a 450 milliamp battery. The stock one is a 400 milliamp, and I think it's a 25C. You'll have to look at the show notes, the description of the batteries there with the link to it on Banggood's site. But the dimensions of that battery should fit right inside this battery compartment for this car. So you can use those as spare batteries. The other things that you get in the box, you get a manual, and the manual is pretty nice. It's pretty detailed, and one thing I really like about it is it has parts and part numbers for all the parts for this car. And let's see here, you get your exploded views of the car, so you can see how everything is assembled, which is really nice, especially for a very inexpensive little car like this. You get a 2-cell battery charger. I always tell people, I suggest that you do not use these chargers that come with these RC vehicles. What I would do is get a hobby grade battery charger and use that, because these things are just not reliable. And even though I ordered this from the US warehouse, it came with a European plug on it. Maybe the Europeans are getting US plugs, I don't know, but it did come with one of these little adapters for it, so at least you got that. Now, it doesn't say that you receive it doesn't say that this is part of the kit. You know, when you order the car, it doesn't say anything about getting spare motor gears, but it looks like I've got at least one set, maybe there may be 2 sets of different size gears in here, and from looking at the diagram, these look like spare motor gears. So the motor has a primary gear and then a reduction gear, and then it has this little output shaft. So I have the motor gear, and then it looks like I have 3 different sizes of reduction gears. So that's pretty nice. That wasn't listed as something that was included in the box, and then you get this nice little carrying box with it. But I love this little drift car. I wanted something else to entertain myself in the winter when the weather is too bad to go out flying. So now I have a little micro quadcopter, and I have a little drift car that I could run inside. Also, I wanted to mention there's a YouTube channel that I subscribe to, and it's called How to DIY RC. And he does all kinds of mods for these drift cars. He's got all kinds of tutorials for doing modifications. He's got parts listings. He can tell you what parts from different cars will work with other cars. So I suggest that you check his channel out. I also have a link to his channel in the show notes. He's very informative when it comes to these drift cars. I'm probably going to perform some of his mods on my car. So with that, it's fairly inexpensive. I think even with the shipping that I paid from the US warehouse, I think it was less than $55 for a ready to run little drift car. And what I have in the room here is a very short pile indoor-outdoor carpet, and this thing runs great on that. I mean, just go into a corner and just goose the throttle a little bit, and you've got it drifting all the way through the corner. So with that, let me go ahead and pause the video here. I'll clip the body back on it, and we'll do a little demonstration inside the house with this little car. So see you in a minute. This is a 4-wheel drive car. And in the specs it states it'll do 30 kilometers per hour, so that's pretty fast for a car this size. But the steering is pretty nice on this car. It seems to have fairly good granularity on the steering. It's not hard to drift it through the corners in reverse gear. It has reverse. And if you just give it a little gas through the corner, you can drift all day long with this car. So I wish I would have received this car before I did my Christmas gift ideas, because this would definitely have been on it. This car has a huge fun factor. And I'd like to get a couple other guys together with a couple more cars and put together an indoor track and just race all day long. So you're definitely going to want to get some spare batteries for this thing. One battery is definitely not going to be enough. By the time that I had put 20 minutes on this battery, I was really disappointed that I didn't have more batteries for it. So, but you never know until you test it. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm having a blast with this little guy, and please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.